Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the live stream. Hoosier Garage. Totally at random. March 4th, 2021. And I'm just getting ready for the big swap meet this weekend in Indianapolis at the Indiana State Fairgrounds, sponsored by the Indy Cylinder Head Company. A pretty good show. Been quite a few years before, and they always set up at the very back of the livestock pavilion, and everything forward in two buildings is all swap meet. They have new vendors, used vendors. Mancini's there, and John Woodworth blames the squirrels, and we want to thank him for blaming the squirrels because we blame the rodents as well. Thank you, John. We got 4 or 5, hopefully 6 people, hopefully times 3, times 4, times 5. What's going on, everybody? All of you that are in the Midwest or anywhere close to that, are you going to be at Indy this weekend, Saturday and even Sunday? If you are, please pipe up and let us know. Please pipe up and let us know. Because, as long as I don't forget, it should be good. If you're one of my people, and I run into you, there's one of these for you. Get some squirrels to carry out some parts. So we have some. These are the nice Hoosier Garage. I had a sticker app make these, and they're of top quality. I will give them that. They do an excellent job on these. They don't have the white band around them with teespring. So as we get into the warmer months and we give these out, and if everybody likes them, which they should, then we might start progressing, and then we get more subscribers and more views and more watch hours and stuff, and you all make us a successful channel, then things will be great as far as merchandise and as far as projects and all that stuff. So Mopar Nut 62 is whether he's the one that suggested that squirrels bring out the parts. I know this is totally random. Sometimes I do the random. I don't usually do playing live chat. So we had a few people in, a lot of them dropped out. So it's probably a boring, bad night for us. What do you think, John? I'll also be visiting our favorite junkyard tomorrow. Dropping. And we're going to take camera. I've not done it the last few times because I was trying to concentrate on some of the stuff. StreamYard looks good. Yeah. I'm going to take this tomorrow, and I'm going to try to highlight a few concepts, some ideas to everybody, and hopefully they'll go over. I am going to grab some parts as usual. We're just going to look at some things, and so stay tuned for that. It'll be another junkyard video in the same yard. One moment, we're going to check something here. I'm hoping to get back on the van here soon. Yeah, get him on here. The van, of course, I spent most of last weekend doing our brake lines. That took up. Well, I was at the junkyard Saturday. That took up some of the day. But then I got home, and the next 2 days it was pretty much bending, flaring brake lines. So it was a bit of time consuming, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm already 2 weeks behind on wanting to get the spindles on the van. So I think we could do it maybe sometime this weekend, or it might even be next. But we'll have video of that. I got to clean up the control arms, top and bottom. The bottoms are getting ball joints and bushings pressed in this week. And I'm going to paint that the arms black. And the top, or the upper control arms, they're on the van still. And I'm going to go ahead and wire wheel those down and paint them black, leave them on there. And then hopefully we can start cleaning a little bit of the frame up just to make it look good in behind there because it's all open. And then we'll get it all together. And hopefully we can have somebody help us bleed the brakes because I have better luck when we have help with it. I've used the personal bleeders and it just takes way too long. Way too long. And so looking forward to have the van running and stopping. They put some Mopars. Hello. How you doing? You working tonight? I just go out to the shop, grab me some tools, made me a list. No, I did not, John. I'd have to do the link thing. See what I can do. Let's see if I can get some people on here and get them a direct link. I'm going to figure this out. There's the actual live stream. We've got 4 people with us. Okay. Share, copy link, and we will pass it along to some of our buddies. There we go, John. Friday through Sunday. That sucks because we look forward to catching you there at Indy. But there'll always be another day for that. And I think there's somebody else that's supposed to go. There's a couple of people that were supposed to go with me. They couldn't get out of work either. So it's turning out that way. So hopefully when I go and show up there won't just be nobody there because everybody had to work last minute. Yeah. Go back to the junkyard. I have to make a new list every time I go to the junkyard. Well, I have a big, like an ultimate list. And usually every time you go, you'll see something or a handful of things different or new or gotta have it kind of a thing. And it's kind of like a toy store right now. So earlier I went ahead and sat down, had some quiet moments and wrote things that I know I need and things I should probably pick up and some things that maybe I could pass along to somebody else, make a buck or two, just stuff like that. There was a van there, a little military van, almost like mine, but it was actually a sportsman, like a window van, and it was just full of engines and parts, and I was able to get the door trim out of it, but I noticed it had some 68 Coronet taillights sitting in there, and they was sheltered from the weather. And I didn't look at them really good. I think actually part of the tail panel was still, like it was chopped out and had the taillights in it. I'm going to look at that again and just, if it's worth grabbing, I'll just grab it. Probably get a good price on it and just pass it on to somebody else that can use it. It's just sitting there. And there's all kinds of stuff. I mean, I've become aware of how many 8 3/4 rear ends that place has. I knew of a couple, but then when I started really looking at individual vehicles, I saw so many of them. There's just a challenge in getting whatever one you want out, and I think they all need to be gotten out. Yeah, and I think they're standard. I don't think they're RT. They're the standard Coronet taillights. You kind of have the widen out, almost like an exclamation point. You stand it on in. So they're definitely 68s. And, Let's see. I'd love to get enough funds together. And if I had a little bit of space, I would buy all the. I was talking to John about this earlier. Just buy all the stuff that's useful, or at least in our world, and set them out there and have them all ready to go. Salvage everything that can be salvaged. I don't think the stuff's going to be there forever. But I'm going to make some video of that tomorrow. And I think we're going to go around and look at some of the big blocks. And we're going to look at a few different cars. If I understand correctly, he takes maybe 600 per car. So it doesn't matter what car it is, it's 600. And I'm playing around with the idea of which would be a good one to get. And if I was to get one. Also based on how far would the parts and or investment in it go. So say you had 3 cars and 2 of them had rear ends in them that wasn't worth anything, but one of them did, but then the other 2 had big blocks and 727s, but one of them had let's say a couple other items, so either suspension wise, something useful, maybe the right wheel, just make up something. And let's say that one there would be the best one, even though it wouldn't have the bigger rear end as the other one. It might go further investment wise. So I might be playing with that idea. And a couple examples that we have, there's a 71 satellite wagon. And I know it's got an 8 3/4 in it, and it's 741 case. The axles are present, although they're not in it. But I cannot remember if it's a big block or small block. My friend Kyle says he thinks it's a small block car. But something in my brain keeps telling me there's a big block I saw. But I was looking at so many last weekend that I could be completely swapping around my mind. And then we have a Cordoba with a big block, and it has the thermoquad on it. It has the fan shroud. It's pretty complete. And of course, you'd have a 727 behind that for sure. But the rear end would not be as preferable because it's impossible for that to have an 8 3/4, or not impossible, but not likely. And so there's some other cars. There's a couple of big block cars. I know there's a 68 Fury with a 383. I will say that the valve covers are completely rotted through on it, so it's been sagging there a while. I don't know if that means that the block would be good or bad. You probably have to fool around with it. It does have a hood on it, so it's been somewhat covered, but it has an 8 3/4 in it. So you have a big block, likely 383, and I'll check when I go tomorrow. Could even be a 440. 727 and 8 3/4, and you can make that whole drivetrain, shorten it up, narrow it, fit it here and there, and it could actually all go into the Duster. Who knows? It's a bit of a lofty thing right now, seeing as some of them set, but I've got a breaker bar I'm going to take and see if any of this stuff turns. If any of it, crank move it, then it'll give us an idea. John Woodworth, he says it's sad the amount of good project vehicles sitting around. I know where there's a 70 Chevelle factory 454 4-speed, 12 volt, black on black, sitting and rotting beside a barn up here. That's pretty cool. I don't know, unless it's the same one. Somebody did a video on one just like that a while back, and I think they said it's set since 1985, and it was black on black. And it sounds familiar because all that just sounds just like it. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff now. Really, nothing in this yard is like that, but it's just full of parts still. A lot of parts people can use and people want. 71 satellite with that yard, I'd get it up and running fast. Wish I lived closer. Yeah, the Doba might have a 9 1/4. A lot of those later B bodies did have the big 9 1/4. Yeah, the 71 satellite. I'll have to look at that again. Give it a good close look. It seemed like it was kind of a low option car, but like you said earlier in the other chat, something is of use there. There's not a lot of 71 through 74 and up B bodies. It's weird because there's more 70 or 68. Actually, you can even go back to 66 through 70, and there's a few 65, 64, and there's some early 60s B bodies too. Let me look up a picture, see if I can find it. It's a Belvedere, and I want to say it's about a 60, 61. And what's funny about it is it has a slant six and an 8 3/4 in it. I know the 8 3/4s are a little different. They had a different system on it. I'll see if I can figure out what year it was. Type that in. Go on here. Come on. Okay. So I would say it's 60. Let's try 62. Jump ahead 2 years. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's about a 62, and I think it's a hard top. It's not as hard. It might even be a 4. They look very close here. Yeah, it's like a 62 or so. Belvedere. Yeah, took a 351 out of a yard and put it in a 73 Ford pickup and drove that out of the junkyard roadkill style back in the 90s. You know what's funny? Some of those engines, and I'm talking small block, big block, some of them look like they're pretty complete, and they don't look like as old. They look worn, but they just look like they don't look as old. Some of them look like they've been there since the Stone Age. You open the hood, all the wires and everything's missing, but you just see this rust color. Everything's solid, same color, like a dark brown rust, and you're like, yeah, that's been sitting there quite a while. And the Fury that I was looking at had the rusty valve covers. I mean, they was like I picked one of the valve covers up, and it basically disintegrated, and all of it went down into the valve trim. But like the engine was pretty much the blue color, the turquoise, but then the valve covers were just gone on it. But then on the other hand, I think there was like a 61 or a 62, maybe a Dodge Seneca or a Phoenix. It had a big block, and it's pretty complete. It has all the brackets on it, and I think it even had an air conditioning pump on it, carburetor, all that stuff. And like the Cordoba I mentioned, probably a 400. It's all there. Yeah, 3-day bill. If I did, it would have to be. I don't know. I don't think I'm as savvy as some of these other guys is doing these like on the spot revivals. I don't know. It's like I have to have my tools real close and whatever garage. You know, but you know, it'd be worth a try. Yeah, a good stroker can make a 350 or a 451. My bad. I keep thinking big block. I've never had a big block. I've been around a handful of them, and they seem like they'd probably be nose heavy in an A body, but that's all I got right now. So, yeah, pack up the van. Yeah, that'd be the good thing about having the van going again is that you can use it as a hauler. You know, take all your stuff, and if you need something, you pretty much packed it all in there, and then you just go grab it right back down. This place is in the hills, and you know, you start at the top of the hill, and any direction you go, pretty much it starts to go down. So you know, if you have to get something out of there like a rear axle, you pretty much have to get four-wheeler or you know, side by side or something with the ability to haul it up there. But most of the cars down there, they're just so far deteriorated, or they're stripped to a degree where it would be next to impossible to get them going down there. I mean, they've got so much junk in them. Like any of the vans have just stuff piled into them. And that yellow van I grabbed the spindles from, it was just completely, the front seats were loaded with these like acrylic panels. Now, John, you have all these ideas. They get the cherry picker set up, trailer wheels. Well, maybe someday. We need the support on the channel. I know you would agree with that. If we get the support, we can do a lot of things in the future. So we have a pretty quiet crowd, and I don't know where Roadkill, where he's at, and some of our usual guys are not around right now. This thing's blowing up there. Yeah. Caliper sliders are hard to find. Yeah, and I was wondering about the disc brakes on that Cordoba. I don't think that the spindle would fit the A body, correct? It's got some pretty big brakes, though. That might even be the same size brakes that are on the van. Because I think they're about 11 and a half or 11 and 3/4. I should have looked at that car a little closer, because the more I think about it, I'm curious about what year it is. Yeah, the adapters. And I've got one of the adapters for an A body. Yeah, so for my swap, but see, I have the dust shields. I have one of the adapters, but that's not really relevant. You need the adapters, the spindles, and then of course you can get the calipers and the rotors and all that stuff later. And probably I need the up control arm. So most of it. Now, one thing I noticed on the van, and like people was asking, do I have to change the upper control arm? No, it doesn't look like it, because the ball joint stud is the same size, the hole's the same size on the spindle, and then the space difference between the drum spindle and the disc spindle is the same. So I don't see any reason to have to change the uppers on those. Basically just the spindle out. Oh, and I know the Cordoba, you would have a lot of front end parts that would meet up with the 73, 74 B bodies. Since they had that, they kind of went in different directions those years. So you've got all the big brake factory parts for your A body and your 71 B body to unicast discs. I need to get my dad on a video. He used to manufacture a lot of the disc brake adapters for Kelsey Hayes, even though he worked for Perfect Circle or Dana Corporation. But it was one of their contracts. They do the spindle or the disc brake caliper adapters. And I didn't know he did those until we was at that junkyard, and I went over the duster and I knew there was, and I held it out, and he just looked at it and goes, Kelsey Hayes. I go, oh, you're familiar? He goes, yeah, I used to make those. And so he told me about it, and sure enough, he used to actually pour the iron into the casting, the mold that made those things. And you know how they're shaped like this, and they kind of spread out. Well, right there on the top, there's a gate. That's where it actually entered, and there were several of them. And that's where the fluid molten steel would go through there and fill up each cavity, and then they'd open it up and they'd knock them off. And he said he always remembers the flat edges where the calipers would fit up to. They said we did a small size and a big size, and of course, when I got the van parts, it had the big size on it. So he was like, "Yeah, there's the little ones and the big ones." So that's pretty interesting. And he also used to make the power steering box, those round notched nuts hold everything together. That holds the whole case together, the bore and all that. And then you had the one on the front, and there was a big one and a small one, and he used to make those too. And they called them the Chrysler nuts, so it was fitting. A direct swap from the Cordoba Charger 73 and 8. There is a 73 Charger up there. It's got a 318 in it. It doesn't have anything much else though. Yeah, he worked at Dana for 31 years. And he's 31 because he was laid off in 1971. But then when he got retirement, they had him work that extra year to make up for that. And right after he retired, Dana closed up shop in the town that it was at, and then moved it all to Mexico. So, typical case. Fenders on the Charger, I think there might be. They might be pretty rusty, but I'll look. I'll have to look on those. The doors were off of it. I do know that. And the trunk lid was gone. Yeah, the trunk lid was gone. I think. I remember seeing into it, and it's full daylight. And it wasn't an SE. It was a regular standard Charger. John, you might have to come down here, spend you a week, and clear the place out. Let's get you a big trailer, maybe an enclosed trailer. Check something real quick. Well, there's John Wilburn. What's going on, buddy? Hopefully you're enjoying the commercials on all these videos. You don't get 9 here. I've used up all my U.S. national commercials. I got some little dealer commercials from back then. I might have to run those. Some of them are better than others. Oh, 73 with Keystone Classics. That would be good. Smash the back into a donuts are bad for you. I was trying to buy a 73 back in 1999. It was on a car lot in New Albany. It was the light bronze color, or more of a gold. I'd call it the gold color. Had the white halo vinyl top on it. Had a white bench seat interior, and the inserts had like a black floral. Okay, black and white floral. And then it had the black NASCAR steel like spoked rims on it. And I just thought, man, this thing looks cool, you know. I was like, I'll change a couple of things about it. But then I called him, and he's like, we don't discuss prices over the phone. And it was one of those buy here, pay here lots. I saw it a couple times after that. Somebody must have bought it. Well, I'm glad you all like the commercials. I'm a little upset with my latest video, which is the brake lines video. In the last 2 days, it's only gotten like 5 views. So I'm just I'm stalling on my views. I don't know. I think you all like the commercials. You all like the stuff I do, but it's just not getting out there. But I will say, if you all saw my little short that I did, if it'll show up there. Anyway, that's the real short video I did showing the wheels and the tires. That got over. That's actually my most viewed video with 2,200 views. So yeah, so working on it. Hey, Kurt, what's going on? Mitch, thank you. Yes, I try to go for the vibe because that's what stands me out from everybody else. Otherwise, I think I would kind of blend in. So I do that. It's what I really enjoy doing anyways. So I have no trouble doing that. And yeah, hit the like button and all that kind of stuff. And I'm glad you liked the brake line video because it swallowed up my whole weekend. Every line on that van is new now. Because if you think back to the one where I did the axle, I had to make new brake lines on the tubes there, and I've got new rubber lines for all the ends. Let's see. Yeah, I lost my brakes, and I should maybe try to get more. You gotta do the thumbnails right. But you know, I don't know. Some of you guys that do videos, how hard it is to do something interesting for a thumbnail. Because when you do brake lines, what are you supposed to do? So that's why I just put brake lines going which direction. So some of them you're kind of at a loss. Some of them you're like, oh, I got a great idea. Yeah, I hate flaring. I used to not do lines at all. I would say, hey, can somebody flare this? And I would have them do it. But I've gotten to the point where I bend and I flare and just got to do it. The subs do bring in more or the shorts. I'm sorry, I'm getting dyslexic. The shorts do bring in more subs. I think I got 9 or 10 from that video with the tires. And then the one with the grill, I got 3 or 4. But I was actually impressed to see how out there on both of them, especially the second one. Miguel, how you doing from Oregon? Long ways from Indiana. Hope everybody's having a good night. It's kind of picked up in here. Me and John was talking, and John Woodworth, Mr. Squirrel Guy. And then we had a couple mentions. Let's see, Bigfoot's Mopar, he's been in here. And we had Dane's Repairs. He just had a quick mention. So it's nice to see everybody drop in. It's a late night, not for the middle of the week, later in the week. You showed up late. If you're coming to Indy this weekend and you let me know or whatever, or you run into me, I'll have some Hoosier Garage decals for you. And again, these are the good ones. High quality, super high quality. Squirrel guy. Squirrely bird. I should have a video. You know, I thought about this the other day. I thought about doing a video. Wouldn't necessarily be about any of my projects, but just me doing impressions of some of our favorite YouTube guys. Nothing harsh or mean-spirited, just a fun do maybe 6 or 7 different ones and do a short segment of each of them, just trying to do an impression of each one in their style. And I'm trying to think of one right off. Like if you took like Uncle Tony, he's probably the most popular among a lot of these circles. But if you did one of Uncle Tony, you can have the hat on and say something real cryptic and majestic or something like that. And if you did one of Lunar, you could add Lunar in there, even though I know him and Tony, whatever. But him and do one of Lunar where he's just like, "What's up, guys?" And we could do one of John Wilbur talking about transmissions. Mr. Pete, my friend Pete, he's kind of out of the loop, but there'd be too much cussing. I can't do all that. Yeah, we'll have to catch you next time on that, Mitch. Somewhere down the road. Because I bought one of my own shirts back in August and wore it. I washed it one time, and all of this, like 80% of it just disintegrated. And then on the back, it disintegrated. And I still have the shirt, and it's a plain purple shirt now. It has nothing on it. It completely washed away. So if you have a problem with any of that, you let me know, and I'll try to get on them about that. I got on them about that one, but they just ignored me. Yeah, alternate words, clean. If I did one of Lammy, he'd be like that. And he'd be talking about that Nova, and he'd just be scratching his beard. Did it fall apart? Yeah. Yeah, they're a little disappointing. Teespring is, but I have thought like as these decals, beautiful quality. And if I get to the point where we got 1,000 subscribers and all that jazz, then I'll probably get T-shirts made locally, and we'll do them that way. They cut out the middleman. I'd just be the middleman then. But. Also, I was thinking about possibly doing another Draw Your Car soon. I think it's about time. We did one in fall. Mopar Nut was a winner. And maybe we'll do one for the spring. Have another drawing. We definitely need to advertise it better. I'm happy with what we had there. Plus, we have more selection. You get more of your guys' cars in art form, and then we can have more variety. Yeah, do Bigfoots. That'd be a cool one. 70 Coronet, Super B. Well, it's like I got this sweatshirt here. I finally got here last week, and I washed it. I'm almost afraid to wash it, so I'm afraid to get it dirty. So I was going to wear this to Indy or my van shirt underneath it, and then I'd be just super styling. And I did put the address on the back, so hopefully some of these Mopar dudes that are so inclined at Indy will be curious enough to check it out. No, Rabbit Transit, Rabbit. Let's try this again. Rabbit Transit Garage. First time going to Indy. You'll like it, I think. If you like swap meets and you like Mopars, you will like this. Wilbur Dark Sport, yeah. That'd be a good one. Is he gonna? Are you still here, John? Are you gonna paint that the way it was, or the way it is, or refresh it? Curious. I know it was like what, yellow and black one time. Now it's like a reddish color and black. Indy's pretty good for the variety. You get some people there that are really proud of what they got, and then you get some people there that are just looking to get rid of stuff, and they're happy to give you a good deal. And if you look close enough, you'll find both. Like those little hubcaps I got, the little dog dish hubcaps with the orange ring on them. I was looking for some of them, and everybody on eBay had them for like $400 for a set, just a good, decent, good driver condition. And I walked into Indy, and I think the second or third booth I looked at, I saw a stack of them, all four, and they was perfect driver quality, and they only had $80 on them. And so I just bought them, boom, right there. And I think a half hour later, somewhere else, another booth had almost the exact same ones, same quality, like really good for a driver, really good for a driver, and they had the exact same price, $80. Yeah, it's any of these guys, you know, if they submit, they got a chance to win. We might have to do the drawing a little differently, like not the drawing part, but the actual art part of it differently. Because when I did those videos, I lost like 10 subscribers from this. They probably like, what is going on here? This is not what I'm into. So we might just have to just do it, and then you all see it at once. Yeah, we got 11 people in here. I think the most we've had for a chat is like 14 or 15. Yeah, you got that black 318 wheel run. You got a black, it was like a 77 or something. Similar to mine. Similar to mine. Kind of an interesting channel. Or the repos, they warp in the sunlight. It's like you think with all the materials they have nowadays that they would not do stuff like that. Or they would look at their mixture. They would know what it's capable of doing. Demon taillights, they're some of the most rare taillights of any of them, because only 2 years. And, you know, some vehicles were only 1 year, but they didn't seem to put out as many demons to begin with. It's like I have a 72 set of Duster taillights, and they came with the car. That was the best thing that came with that car was those two taillights, because at the junkyard I've been visiting, there's a 72, and the taillights are still in the trunk. They're like inside of it, but they're busted. They're all busted up. Because it's like they're so big, but then they're 1 year, so they're more likely to get busted, and they just, good luck finding them. You're not too late. I might be on for a few more minutes. I've been on for about almost 50 minutes now. Yeah, 68. Of course, like 71 Barracuda. Well, really, any of that era right there, where they would change the taillights each year, like B&E bodies, they would change them every year until you got to about 72. You're gonna be 32 tomorrow. Well, happy birthday if that's how way I understood it. And on a Friday, what better day to have a birthday than on a Friday? Hey, we got 13 people on board. Most of them are just lurkers, though, right? Hidden headlights will break your bank account. Yeah, get all the vacuum stuff on. You know, you get in those B&E body cars, they get all this fancy stuff, and it drives you crazy money-wise. Now, I was lucky when I had my 74 Challenger. All the door panels, the side panels and door panels, was in excellent shape. They had only one little brittle spot on them, but I was able to seal it in when I re-dyed them because they were just faded. It was blue, like a B5 blue. And 74 had that weird shade of B5. It was like, it didn't have metallic in it. It was a little bit of they called it Lucerne blue or Lagoon blue or something. But I got the dye for them, and they could put brand new ones in. One more on the wheels and tires. Debating. The paint's all cured up on all the wheels. I've got the two rear tires. I guess I'm just waiting on getting my front end back together before I go jumping into doing wheel and tires. It might just be a temporary thing since I'm not done with all the body work. I don't want to get them all nasty and on it. So I might get them, put them on, show you guys, and then take them off and cover them up until everything's cleaned up and ready. But yeah, actually, yesterday I had a few minutes where nothing was going on, and I was thinking, man, I ought to take those down to the tire store and get them put on. Yeah. And the junkyard out there has a bunch of C bodies, and most of the C bodies they have are late 60s. They've got a Monaco, Polera, they got Furies. They had a New Yorker. I'm trying to think. They had a 74 New Yorker. That was one of the newer ones they had. But like every one of them had big blocks on it. Except for one. One of the Furies. It looked just like the 68 383 or 440 car. But when you walk up to it, like when I'm in the yard, you get disoriented, and they're both green, and you walk up and like, oh, this one's has a big block, and you look, and the distributor's in the back. Oh, wait, no, this is that 318 block. Listed under Plymouth, huh? You gotta do something with it, Michael. Last year for the 383. Well, that's what I'm saying, guys. You know what I mean? All those big blocks. This guy wants to save all of them and all the 8 3/4 and all the 727s that are in that place. I'm just not big enough yet. I'm not that guy yet. And I can't remember what he wants, what he takes for engines directly. Might be 300, 400, something like that, if you just got the engine. Now I can say 8 3/4. Chunk, axles, tubes, housing. 150. So I need to get a rear. That's a good price. I don't care what it is. I'll cut it down if I have to. I do not care. I'd actually kind of like to have one to cut down. I think that'd be cool. Cut it down to an A-body size, and you have an A-body 8 3/4. It was just going to die otherwise. Yeah, and I've thought of that too. I need to get out of my busy period of my job. This is one of my second busy part of the year. So yeah, and then getting later, starts getting summer, and you don't want to be out there in the summer. I don't think. Too many snakes, people. So I got a couple of guys that would be more than willing to help. They have the equipment where we can pick cars up because all that stuff's sunk in the mud so bad. A lot of them you got to pick them up and cut the U-bolts and yank it out, and you're good to go. But it's just a matter of going through the woods and the hills and getting it all out of there. Glad you liked it, Kurt. You got a lot of views on it. You got a handful of subscribers, so that's what those are for. If you're not sure what shorts are for, those little quickie videos, vertical videos, it's to basically try to lure subscribers in. It's not to get any kind of watch time or anything like that. So that's how they're meant to work that way and be fast and be quick and to the point, so that all these short attention span people that sit there and watch them all day don't get bored with your video in the first 10 seconds. Long black boots, yeah. Well, see, when I was in there last Saturday, there was that. If you look in the first junkyard video I did, there's a 68 Cornet. It's been painted like a teal, green, black top. Had an 8 3/4, and the axles was out of it, and I was surprised it still sat there. Well, I figured out why. We cut the U-bolts on it, and it wasn't until I actually got it out of the car and I looked at it, I realized that the tube next to the pumpkin, like right here, had a dent in it, and it basically, this tube on this side was good, but then this one here where that's it. But I do know there's a Charger. There's a 66 Charger in there that's missing the chunk. It's got one that's really easy to get to. I think there's a 65 that's sitting on top of another car. It's got one. I'm going to look for sure on that one. There was no pig in it. It was just the housing and the axles and the backing plates. I was going to grab the housing and the axles. But most of the cars have the chunks in them, and I'm sure there's nothing wrong with them other than just being grainy gears or stuff like that. 741 cases, and I know that the Plymouth wagon has a 741 case and it's got tapered axles. The Fury, 68 Fury, it's down in the ground, but you can just barely see what it is. Right. And like I was talking to somebody today, the mid 60s B bodies are even narrower, and they will fit an A body. But at the same time, I'm a stickler. I kind of like factory spec on certain things, even though I know they was somewhat narrow for a Duster. I just assume get a bigger one, a longer, or like a C body or something, and then narrow it down and get the axles on. Preferably if you can get the axles cut down and respline. But I mean, I could live with one or the other for a while, but I would probably eventually correct it. Yeah, as far as snakes, we get copperhead. Yeah, Mitch is roughly the same part of the country I'm in, so you get copperheads around here in the hills. I haven't seen too many rattlesnakes. Yeah, so I'll figure out what we can do for a rear end. Michael, just look up narrowing. Narrowing an axle or just moving the angle is all screwed up in it. And I don't know why, but the perch was set like this and the pinion angle was up 7 degrees. And it shook like crazy when you got about 65 miles an hour and higher. Well, it happened around the time I started, or by the time I was getting ready to go to the Indy show then. This is several, 10, 15 years ago. And I bought a brand new pair of them for $20 and then cut the old ones off and we smoothed it out and then we reset the pinion angle about a degree and a half down and then re-welded the purchase on and then it was fine after that. It was perfect. So there's different things. There's narrowing, then there's basically the pads. Yeah, see what John's saying is what I'm thinking. It's pretty much my train of thought. Because if you can keep your axle, then that's saving you hundreds of dollars, and then you just have to get the machine work to have the splines basically move them back after you cut it so that it all fits the new width. Once you narrow the rear and bring the cap ends evenly back in. Yeah, and the front track width on an A body being wider in the front is advantageous to handle. And I don't know if it just it has more of a kind of a grabbing effect or whatever it is. I mean, it's one thing to have a wider tire on the back, but when the actual track is narrower in the back than the front. Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of the trucks and stuff like that, one side will be longer than the other one. And those can be modified. They just bring them in and, shorten the axle. When you're that close, no big deal. Yeah. Yeah, and the good thing is you've got options, right? Usually I put 8 1/4 or yeah 8 1/4 in this stuff, and everybody gripes about that. But I mean, there's a lot of parts. They still make a lot of parts for those. The factory, the last I fooled with them was making parts for it, so you could use a lot of those parts. You change the bearings or the races a little bit, and then the caps and all that kind of stuff, and then they'll fit. You know, I mean, if you're not tearing your tires off every time, then it's gonna hold up. So. And I had a dart, and I measured that, and it was 43 inches. So you can actually bolt an 8 1/4 Dakota rear end to a Duster, but the ends of the axles will be a lot wider. It might be maybe 3 inches wider, maybe 4 inches. But the perch to perch, they was dead on. But I'm not opposed to narrowing anything. And I think it boils down to like the way wheels and tires fit. If you had a wheel and tire combo on, on a factory car here, and you wanted to put on this car, well, if you had that B body rear in it and it hadn't been cut down or anything, then you're gonna be like, especially if you aren't familiar with the cars, like the history. So then you go to put, and it's like sticking way out, and you're rubbing the fender, and then you're just like confused. That kind of like that little confusion drives me crazy because it just feels like people have been messing with stuff. But that's just me. Like if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna try to be a snob about it and put it to a factory somewhere it's all interchangeable. Like in a pinch, you would have the interchangeability of the sizes and all that stuff. Yeah, 4 9 inch. Yeah, good rear. But that drives me crazy too. It's like it's got Ford GM, stuff like that. Yeah, 7 1/4. Now the purple Duster I had that I built, put a 340 in. When I got it, it was a 318 and had a 7 1/4 rear. And it was actually I took it apart just to look at it, and it was in good shape. It actually outlasted 318. 318 completely fell apart. Wasn't the Dakota like one of the last ones to use a 7 1/4? Kind of like what Michael's talking about. Wasn't that what that one was? Quote 4 cylinder rear end. I want to say that I've seen one in one of those. And it had a ridiculously small pumpkin on it. Dana 60. What's it out of, John? John Trudell, what's going on? I almost want to grab a Dana 60 at the yard, but they're all in like 1 ton pickup trucks and stuff. You got all the big axles on. The 7 1/4s, they're 9 bolt, and they're kind of They just look small. Small. I got one laying out back from that parked car duster. Yeah, well, there's a couple of them. There's that van. It's like a '75 van that I got the steering box out of. It was B300, so it's 1 ton, and it's got a Dana 60 in it. And then there's a '69 1 ton Dodge truck. I can't remember what the. It was like a panel truck, not a panel truck, but a flatbed sort of truck. D whatever, D350 or whatever, D300, whatever they are. It had a Dana in it. And then they had one that didn't have the bed on it. You can look right at it. It had a Dana 60. It was a 70 model. It's hard to remember all this stuff. Like you think of it, you know roughly, but then you go to look at it when you're there the next time, and it's not anything what you thought. Not in the same location in the yard, not in the vehicle you thought it was in. It is. They all run together. No spot for opinions number at all, really? Huh. Yeah. Well, I thought about that. I know you'd have to get different axles on that one because it'd have all them like what, 8 lug axles on it and all that stuff. That kind of like, I'd love to do it. I think it look cool. They look cool under a Duster, Dana 60, and it'd be ridiculously impossible to break no matter what you decided to build in front of it. I'm not much to beat on them anyways, but just the concept of it. Like if you're gonna build a tough car, like had an unbreakable rear, unbreakable transmission, an unbreakable engine, unbreakable suspension. you just you just get all the tough stuff they made. You know. So it was weird when I asked him about the rear, the Dana 60 rear, and I don't know if he just has whatever price $100 for that one. And I was like, I don't know about that. But then I asked him about the 8 3/4, and he's like, 150, so half the price. So if he tells me that, I kind of remember that. Like, well, he said 150. They still break, yeah. Was that 69 Charger? I mean, you have to put a lot of power to them, I would imagine, or something be weak for whatever other reason beforehand. So basically, is it a strange version of a Dana 60? Because I know the Dana 60 is a 9 3/4. S60. I think I've seen those. I was looking at something a while back. It's like I think you can get one of them built for like I think like $3,000. You can have it completely brand new, everything to the size you want. Which I don't know much about that stuff, but it seems like that's actually a decent deal. Yes, because if it's gonna be brand spanking new, the exact size you need. Because anything less seems kind of cheap. Yeah. But you just think of the precision though, because everything that's old might have a little kink in it or whatever. But if you get that brand new, all these lasers they got now, you would think that it would be dead on accurate, like track good, vibration out of it, all that kind of stuff. Hmm. $25, yeah. Well, Mitch, you gotta come up here because if he's selling whole rears for 150, you could probably pick up a few chunks for. Of course, he tends to judge what you buy on like package deals kind of thing. So it's almost like if you bought just a chunk, you might charge you $100, but if you take the whole rear, he'll charge you 150. There's plenty of chunks in there. I don't know know the cases on all of them, but I figure it's a good place to get some now. What to do, Michael? Like shake around a little bit, or like it's not sure. When I had my '74 Challenger, I do remember, and I had to read it. I read this a while back that it had a 489 case in it, and I remember at the time thinking that was pretty good. But then I forgot what it was when I started thinking about the numbers here recently, and I realized it had a 489 in it. That's like the one everybody wants. Yeah, the big X. Yeah, that's right. That's the pain with some of the cars. You just can't. Cars are, tires are flat. They're sitting in the mud, or they've sunk. It's hard to get them up, or they're in a bad spot. It's like you need to go down to the bulldozer and just lift them up. And what's funny is they have a '69 uh, Coronet wagon laying on its side. You can walk right up to it, and it's got a front sway bar with the tabs and all that stuff. But it's got an 8 1/4 rear end and a 318. So they had a handling package on it. But then there's that Coronet in the back, 69, 318, got an 8 3/4, but it doesn't have a front sway bar. So they were optioned all over the place. Tales from the junkyard. What's going on, buddy? He keeps all the sugar. That's nice of him. Hey, as long as you got to join us at all, that's all that matters. Yep. I would imagine most of these are open rears that I'm looking at, but like I said, you can only see what you can see. So. Like, what would be standard? Did they have a standard set of gear ratios and or sure grip / open for a 68 Fury with a big block? Likely a 383. Was there a set number of gears that they used on them, and then it was, did they only use certain cases? Because if you could kind of figure it out that way, and if it was accurate, then you would probably be able to just lift one up and pull that one out. You know, you'd kind of confirm when you pulled it up. Oh, it's 49 or 742 case, and then your time spent likelihood would be much more efficient. Hey, Manuel, thanks for stopping in. Let me know. Appreciate you watching the videos, and yeah, just take care of what you got to take care of, and we'll be here. Yeah. Even if it's just I know if you get the housing, then or the case housing, then the gears can be changed, all that kind of stuff. Any of the stuff can be rebuilt. But hopefully, I'll try to see what I can see tomorrow. A lot of them you just can't see them unless you literally pick the vehicle up. 489s aren't. I know some of the 8 and 8 1/4s, like when you have the 245 gears. Same thing on some of those. That's right. The cone types, no, yeah, that's it. I'm out of the loop on a lot of that rear stuff. Now, how are the 741s different from 742s? Aren't they kind of the same difference, but they're not as desirable because whatever reason? I guess they had the smaller pinion or something on them. Because I know for sure that wagon's got a 741. I actually saw the casting on it, 741. And the axles were laying in the back of the wagon, and they dropped down a couple of sizes, smaller pinion. And they all have the same axle splines, don't they? Like a 30 spline axle, be it at 742, 741, 49. Yeah, so like you're saying, John, 741. Yeah, I'll take Kurt. I'll have. I'm gonna do video tomorrow of the junkyard. You probably see it next week. I'm also gonna try to do some video of the swap meet on Saturday. Um, so like I was saying, or what you were saying, John, the 741 smaller pinion, okay for a light duty. Would they consider that light duty a big block in any situation? Because what I'm saying is, if you got an 8 3/4, even if it's in a C body, and you have a big block engine, would it be as likely to have a 489 or 742 in one of those cases? Because I'm thinking if that wagon being a 741, well, you know, like if it's honestly a light duty, then it would probably be a 318. But like I said, my mind's messing with me. I'm running them all together. I'm not quite sure what I saw. I have to look again to confirm. It's like I'm trying to play the knowledge game without trying to go out there and physically figure out a light duty like a 318 and an A body, yeah. But in a B body, because wouldn't the B body be considered more weight to pull and a little bit more strain on it? So then they would upgrade the case. Yeah. Yeah, but some of the folks that wasn't in here earlier, one of my concepts of tomorrow at the junkyard, along with getting my usual batch of parts that I always grab, is just looking at different vehicles, looking at their drivetrains, looking at other aspects of the vehicle, the actual body, you know, the trim or any suspension components, what would be the best bang for the buck. And it's not necessarily a parts vehicle for my Duster. It would just be a what would be more advantageous to get. And it might work out that part of it would go to the Duster. It's really all just an idea. It's a big pipe dream right now, thinking, you know, if you got a big block vehicle and it had an 8 3/4 in it, that would be, to me, kind of a good basis. Then you could take the rear end, you can either narrow it or use it as is in the Duster, and then you could either sell or use the big block and its corresponding transmission in the Duster, or sell it. So it'd be like nothing would be wasted. Whereas if you got a car that had preferable engine transmission like this Cordova, and it would have a 9 1/4 rear end, you would end up with a rear that nobody would necessarily want. Tough rear end, yes, they still use them in the trucks, but like it's not a highly regarded rear end. You have enough up here, like other stuff, like fan shroud, fan, thermoquad, all that kind of stuff. You know, what would be the better? So that's kind of the idea of the video. I think tomorrow that I'll take is, and I might even do a little bit more work on showing the specs of what we know it has. So, like, we would look at one and consider it a candidate. Look at another one, consider it a candidate. Yeah, just, you know, condition, and like you'll have to actually watch the video and see the car itself, that specific car, because we can all sit here and go, even especially me being the one that's going to look at it, I go, oh, that car seemed pretty good. But you ever think, oh, that car was in pretty good condition, and you go back and look at it and realize it's an absolute roach. So it's almost like certain things are just like, you know, and then you'd have to look at the engine. If you narrowed them down, hey, get the breaker bar out, get a spark plug out of it, and try to turn the engine. If it doesn't turn, then okay, there's another factor. If you look down the side and there's a rod hanging out of the block, then that's another factor. So looking at it from that, trying to be savvy, trying to get the best vehicle, whether the vehicle lives or not likely, because they're pretty roached. But How can you take all the stuff in it, like the Indians with a Buffalo? Use every part, use as much as possible, get a return of value somehow, be it money or be it in actually using the components. Now, like Mopar Nut says, the wagon would be a really good option because if you had a 71, 72 B body, and I guess even an E body, if you really get there, there'd be a lot of the trinkety parts that would work, the K-frame, the front suspension, the rear end would work in many of the applications. So, and then you might even have some infrastructure like, dash wiring or the dash itself, the frame. You got to think of stuff that doesn't usually rot away, stuff like that. But then you have cars like the 68 Fury. It's probably has a 383 in it, 727 for sure. It's got an 8 3/4. To me, as I think about it, as long as and there's actually a couple cars that are C bodies. Like there's a couple Polaris, there's a couple Monicos that are big blocks and would likely have 8 3/4 in them. And then you have the 727. So there's the whole drive line that is just completely useful as long as it's not blown up or shot. So everything else would be potential. So that's kind of my thinking, and if y'all can get into that and can dig that, then great. You'd be a good one to help us figure that out, or if it's a good direction to even go. Yeah, and I mean, does it depend on the body? I mean, can I use a C body? No. But could I use the whole drive line? I mean, would $600 be worth a rear end, transmission, and an engine? I would say yes, especially if everything seems to check out. The closer it is to your body style that you're building, like if you found a Duster, yeah, if you find a Duster, and it's a 340 car, well, yeah, obvious, no kidding. A slant 6, a 904, and probably a 7 1/4. Well, that's pretty much useful. I already have that. Okay. Is the body in good shape? Other than having a hit on the front side, it's in fairly good shape. But trinket stuff, trim, yes, absolutely worth it. But you're not getting $600 for it. If you're going to spend $600 on a car in a junkyard like that, where the body is not good, it's not savable, because one, he doesn't have titles for any of this stuff anymore, and two, most of them have been sitting there for so long, they're just shot, they're gone. But there's parts that can be salvaged, whether you could use them or not. There's trim, there's door handles, there's window cranks, there's glass, there's even seats maybe, or the seat frames. There's various things that could be pulled out of it and saved and sold or used. But when that's part of it though. That's what you're looking at when you consider these things, and that's what we're going to look at. Do you get an engine, transmission, and ideally engine, transmission, and rear end? That's the kind of the foundation. And then if everything else is like a benefit, then that makes that one top dollar. Yeah, I had a friend that had a 71 GTX 440 4-speed, and it had a 354 Dana in it, and it would. Let's see, there you go. Now he's got a couple two-door V bodies. He's got a couple Coronets set next to each other, but the front and back ends of them have been completely chopped off, like a foot in and a foot, and they're pretty gone. I think one of them's got a 318 in it. Might have a rear end in it. And if I'm going to, like, for that car, I would be like, well, whatever I want from that car would be the rear end, if you're just targeting one thing, it'd be the rear end. There might be other parts, and if you've watched any of these videos, you know how I am about parts. I'm about like you are, John, where I'm not going to throw stuff away just because if it's nuts, bolts, special fasteners, trim, interior, I'm going to keep it. Okay, I'm going to find somebody needs it, or there's no use throwing it away. But since it's not to my availability, it's not something I already own, and I had to pick one thing from it, it'd be the rear end. Yeah, I'm trying to involve her, but I want everybody to understand what the concept is. If you look at every car in there as a $600 car, which one goes the furthest? And yeah, one car's got a 318 and a 7 1/4 rear. It doesn't make much sense to say that one's it, because everybody has a 7 1/4. A lot of people have 318s, but if you can get a big block and blah blah blah, that kind of thing. Michael, if you're looking for that exact car though, or at one identical to it, you're probably gonna have to pay a lot of money. Because if it was a lime green car and it's in any kind of decent condition, yeah, it's the date and the code and all that kind of stuff. That's really getting down. That's narrowing it down. And one thing, like he's only got a few A bodies, and all the disc brake swaps or disc brake equipped cars, that's been stripped. They're gone. So you could look at one of those and go, well, if it had an 8 1/4 rear, never mind the gear ratio, and it still had the front disc brakes on it with the proportioning valve and all that, that would be worth $600 for me, because the front end is $300. There's enough other parts in the Duster, bushings and all this, little knickknack stuff, and then the rear end, that's going to make the other $300 easy. Yeah, so you got the maximized value out of that situation, John. Like that's hard to beat. You know what I'm saying? What I'm saying is, if you go in and get a car and you pay 600 for it, because it's 600 is kind of a middle of the road. It's not 1,000, but it's not 200. So you want to make sure what you're getting, you're going to extend it as far as you can. So it's like, you don't want a rear that's all bent up. You don't want a transmission that's blown up or the case is rotted on it, and you don't want an engine with a window through the block. So then you have no value from it other than just little stuff, and stretch that to $600. That's what I'm saying. So I probably look at certain ones, and we can, like I said, I kind of had to rehash on how to determine which big block is what, 400 or RB or B. And so we'll look at those and say, okay, this one's a 440. All right. And you look under it, have a 440 or 8 3/4 rear. And if it's a C body, it'll likely not be a manual or anything. So you'll have things like, a 727. And then you'll have a power steering box that could be rebuilt. Then you'll have maybe some disc brakes, that can be used somewhere else. Yeah, Mopar has some of the best interchangeability. So, it's just really, that's what's fun about it. This idea to me is you can just make things work. And think I would like to grab one, but the Scamp has the steering column, and it's a power steering column, 72. I like to grab it out because the one in my Duster, somebody did the whole axle shaft thing, and Mitch might be familiar with this car enough, but they put a manual box in it. They welded a shaft on it, but it happened to be crooked on the end, and it binds, or it did bind before I took it out. I sold the box. I was just gonna go ahead and put the power steering back in it. But the one at the junkyard is still power steering, and it'll be a direct interchange. So I might just grab it, get it cheap, and have it. So kind of like right now, what I've been doing is just trying to get the parts I know I need, that I know are useful, and if I can grab something in the meantime. Now modern cars, you're screwed almost. Yeah, everything's so singular, so direct. This car and no other car. Like you look at this Camaro I got, this 2010 Camaro, and you look at a 2010 truck, Silverado V6 truck or something, and hardly anything is interchangeable at all. And I understand there's a truck oil pan, or but generally the old stuff was it was interchangeable to a much closer degree. Yeah, well, when I do the video, if we're talking about the same thing, because you say it'll be helpful to make a list before you go to refer back to. If it's a list on the parts, I have a short list of what I want to get tomorrow, and I might not get everything. It's just sometimes you don't feel like getting everything. But as far as the car that they have, yes, it'll mostly be documented on the camera. We're gonna look at it and go, all right, I'm gonna take some sandpaper. I'm gonna sand that pad on the block that's there, so we'll know if you're hitting that pad that rises up, it's gonna be a 440 or a 413, or heaven forbid a 426 max wedge or whatever. But if we're saying the other one, we'll figure out if it's a Thunder or a 383 or even a 361 or all that jazz. So that'll be on the video, and then we'll go around with, okay, yeah, it's got an 8 3/4, and if I could see anything on the transmission, I could give some kind of value on that. Does it look like it's intact? Is it broke or anything? And then go from there. If we look at, then we'll look at the other ones, see what kind of options they have, what kind of So Mitch didn't know too much about that Duster. It's just kind of a roughly put together car, and so I have to undo some of that, but then basically do all the sheet metal, and then whatever we put in it is going to be the fun part. Yeah, I know they did 413s up into the early 70s on trucks. So. Just Mopar Joe, how you doing? Yeah, the brake line video. Yeah, we need another view on that one. We need some more views, and hopefully you'll get your shirts here soon. So. It was a little slow. When I ordered this hoodie, I ordered it like about 3 weeks before I got it. It took a little while. The other stuff, about 2 weeks, I guess. But yeah, but anyway, I was saying we'll document each of the vehicles that I kind of have in mind with the camera. So you'll be there to see it just as I'm seeing it. My dad will probably be with me, so he's not like a expert on that, but he's good to have around. Yeah, don't wash the shirt because they might break down. Doing a build series on it, that'll be cool. 413. I know a guy that put one in a 72 Swinger, and he had to tie the frame together real good on it. It was wanting to twist it like a can. Yep, 69 Dodge motorhome. That sounds about right. The 413 is one of the few motors that was actually sang about. And the Beach Boys sing about that. The 413 is really digging in. It was against the Cobra or something like that. Yeah, of course they favored the Cobra, but hmm. So were a lot of the 413s in the cars, weren't they like dual quads and stuff like that? Or am I just thinking strictly the 426? I feel like when I first started getting into cars when I was a teenager, I was reading about 413s in a couple of articles, and it seemed like those and the 426 Ram Chargers and all that Max Reds and stuff, they were very similar. Hmm. Cross Ram, yeah, the Cross Ram. And anymore, when I think of the Cross Ram, I think of 426. But yeah, the 413. I know they had different configurations on intakes on them. But I'm kind of psyched out to see what we'll find tomorrow. Um, kind of in my little universe, it's always cool if you can find a 440. But I've always liked 383s too, as far as just what like I said, I never owned any big blocks, so I'm behind on that. But what I've had experience with other people and stuff, I always 383 seem like they're awfully reliable. Um, but again, a disclaimer: I'm not decided that's what I'm going to put in a Duster because that's kind of a big decision. Something like that, like a satellite or a Charger, early '70s. Well, an ideal find. I'm let's say traditionally, it's like if I found a good 360 or really a 340, that would have been it. And I've had both. And right now, I'm just coming off this van as far as the whole. It's just going to be a straight driver 318, so nothing crazy there. But when you get to the Duster, I haven't decided a lot on it. And usually, when I get a car, I'm like got it planned out in a week what I want. But with this junkyard being a resource right now and seeing in many big blocks, it's just kind of a fun idea. And with me having the video channel now, you want to keep it kind of fresh, kind of interesting. And no, that's not a fresh idea per se, but if you're going to build the whole car body up and then do an engine, if you can do a big block, it might be something to do. My whole thing right now is just looking at this idea I've got of if you can get a $600 car, try to get as much of it as you can, stretch it as far as you can. So that to me, that's like the ideal find. So if you can get a 440 or a 383 or even a 400, which is not likely to have an 8 3/4 behind a 400 unless you're just in a certain little space. There's certain cars, but those cars aren't there. So it's like big block 727, big block engine, and an 8 3/4, and then everything else is bonus if it works out, whether it be money wise or in use value, basically. Yeah, 400. Yeah. So there's just options, and with the caveat is that I'm not a big racer. I'm just like I'm they're fun to build. I like seeing big blocks, small blocks. I like cruise. So it doesn't have to be, rip roaring, rip snorting kind of a thing. It could just be the fact that it is. Because I do like to drive them, and if gas is going to get high, which it probably will, stretch it out as far as we can. Because I like seeing the cars on the street, and when you talk to guys, well, I don't drive it because it's not streetable. Well, cool car, but I like seeing them on the street. I like to enjoy them more than they, because I've spent the past year and a half building a van, have never driven it, and I haven't personally had a restored Mopar in about 8 years. So you're getting kind of like where you want to get to drive. You just want to drive. You want to enjoy it for its little quirks and the things that it is. That's me right now. And most of the 360s I've had, they was all like 70 casting on them, 70 to 72s. And I really like those because they just had a good, I like the quality on those because the core shift was not an issue. You would have the 915 heads on them. Just all that kind of stuff. I really like those. I always like getting those. One of them came out of a 72 Fury, and the other one came out of a 71 Fury, and then the other one was a 72 Dodge camper van. And then I swapped them over and put 4 barrels on them, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and there's nothing better than like a 440 and just a Charger. 440B better. Yeah, Stevens Mopar. I think my first 360 was a 60 over. I had to put a bigger radiator in it. Roy, what's going on? Good morning to you. It's almost morning here. In another half hour, it'll be morning. Joe, you have a good night. Get that baby in bed. Mine's been fussing a little bit. He don't like to sleep a lot. And I'll probably wrap it up here in a few minutes. But the good thing is, as far as our channel, next week there'll probably be at least 2 videos, possibly 3. And when I say that, we're talking about the junkyard, we're talking about the swap meet, and then later in the weekend, I'd like to start getting the van back together. Hopefully, my lower control arms will be ready tomorrow. I told them no hurry, so you know how that goes. I probably shouldn't have said that. If I get those, then I could do upper, lower, and get the spindles into place, and then possibly even get the rest of them on. So it'll just depend. It'll depend. I can at least start on the next video for disc brakes. So look forward to that. That's cool, Kurt. Yeah, the way I look at these vans is almost like they kind of have that big rig feel, like to me, um, where you have the captain's chairs and the drink tray, and you set up a little high, and you have that like a sleeper in the back, like a sleeper cab tractor trailer. That's what it reminds me of, but it's just without all the bulkiness and the length. So I kind of look at it that way, and it's a Mopar, so it's like it's kind of best of both worlds there. And so that's why I put the CB and all that stuff in. I just went with that whole Vanner thing, and I think it's kind of cool. Yeah, he'll grow up fast. That's true. I was looking at a picture just today when he was 5 days old. I took a picture with him next to my van, and he was like this big, And earlier today, I had him in here, and he's getting heavy. My wrist hurt holding him on. What do you say we go to the 2 hour mark? We're at 1:56, so we got just under 4 minutes. I'll go for the 2 hour mark, and then we'll shut off for the night. And hopefully, we've provided a little bit of the fill for your Mopar or your just your car needs. Michael, you have a good night, buddy. Happy birthday again tomorrow. Y'all tell Michael happy birthday. Yeah, Kurt, if you think to send me some, I'll type in my address here. You can send them right to there. I'll write it down, save it for later. I always had pretty strong legs because you see my build. I've got a pretty slender build, but I've got pretty strong legs. I could tell he's going to have strong legs too. Well, he pushes off and stuff. He likes to use his legs. So. Two minutes. 2 minutes. Under gray. My dad had a Ford truck at the time. It was like an emerald green. I think it was 50 or whatever it was. It wasn't until '93 he bought a Dakota and he kind of went Chrysler. Had a lot of Chryslers ever since. So. Yeah, but Kurt, if you send me pictures, we'll feature them on one of the videos if you don't mind, and just show what some of the people that contribute to the channel have. And that goes for anybody. If you want to send some pictures, we'll show what everybody drives. Either way. Well, we're coming down in the last 15 seconds. So we're going to jump off for the night. Hope you had a good evening. Thanks for joining us and giving us some company. And watch for this. And thanks for watching the Hoosier Garage, guys. Y'all take care. Have a good evening.